Hi guys! So, One Book July is almost upon us and I wanted to tell you what I'm planning to do. I'll just give you a little bit of background about last year. When One Book July came up, I thought there's no way I'm going to be able to do this because I had become a confirmed planner addict with 5 million planners, and I was just like, but I cannot give up all of my planners. So I thought at the beginning I made a video saying I'm going to make a slight concession. I had like a food planner and a personal planner and a work planner and a home planner and a pet planner and like all kinds of different planners. And I said, okay, the one thing that I'll do is I'll move the meal planning from the food planner into the home planner. And then that was how I started off. And then somehow by the end of the first week, I'd had this revelation. It was like the spirit of One Book July had come upon me. And I was like, oh my goodness, I could consolidate so many different things from all of these different planners and put them all in the home planner. And I basically ended the month with only 3 actual planners and then a bunch of reference binders where I just kept documents. So it was a really, really enlightening experience, and one that took me completely by surprise because at the beginning I wasn't expecting that to happen at all. And it kind of just happened spontaneously. It's not because I forced myself to do it. So I didn't end the month with just one book, but I ended up with a system which I was much happier with and which has stood the test of time in that those basic elements have stayed not exactly the same, but I've kept using all of the ring binders just for reference materials, basically. But obviously, over the course of the year, I have acquired a lot of other planners, as you can see here from this stack that we're about to go through. And I think that this is why One Book July is a good thing, because throughout the year, as a planner addict, you kind of, build up. You collect planners sometimes because you have an idea for something that you'd like to start tracking, and I'll tell you more about that in a minute, or just because you see a planner that you really like and you buy it and then you have to find a use for it, etc. So I think it's a good idea to do this yearly challenge where you kind of like pare things down a bit to the basics, at least relatively, and see what you need, what you don't need, and if there's any way that you can tweak your system a bit to streamline it so that it becomes more efficient. So this year, I was actually really looking forward to One Book July, although I never had the intention of following it completely to the letter, as in there's no way that I'm going to actually just use one book for the month, and I will explain that more in a minute. But I was looking forward to the idea of taking the month to have a kind of streamlining challenge, which instead of thinking about with dread, as I did last year at the beginning, I've actually been really looking forward to and excited about. A kind of opportunity for like a little planner holiday / like it's part relaxation from having to maintain all these different planners and part adventure challenge. So that's kind of where I've been starting off with. I'll just go through all of the planners that I've got at the moment and then tell you what I'm planning to do. So first planner, you've just seen this. This is my week's personal planner, which is in its new home, the Filofax Compact Saffiano. And my personal, so this is where I write all of my personal information, as in anything that's not work related, basically. This is like my planner for stuff that is like my YouTube schedule and just, to-dos, like if I have to take the dog's out for a walk, or like kind of basic mundane things to do for the day, or particular things like I have to go to the post office, or I have to I took my Hobonichi cover to the dry cleaners, which was a very momentous event because it had been really grimy and I didn't know how to clean it, and it's come back looking all pristine, so that's exciting. Just like personal stuff. So that's one. We'll be coming back to this later. Then my next one is my Hobonichi Cousin, which is my work planner, and this is where everything to do with work goes. So I use the monthly and the weekly sections for my schedule, and then I use the daily section for notes. So I have to take quite a lot of notes for my various research projects and also, like teaching things and meetings and plans for future projects and stuff like that. So that's what this has been used for. So I'd say these have been my 2 main planners, really. But then I have this whole stack of other planners and trackers. So the first one is my gratitude journal, and I've been using this since the beginning of the year. This is my Hobonichi A6. Last year, I've actually, for the last probably 5 or 6 years, I've had a separate gratitude journal, which has just been a notebook of some kind or a Moleskine daily planner. Last year, because of One Book July, I ended up ditching my separate gratitude journal and incorporating it into my personal planner, which was a ring planner at the time. So it was quite easy to do that because I just added a section for gratitude. And I really liked that because it was nice having everything consolidated and knowing that all I had to do was pick up my personal planner and gratitude would be there as well. Then what happened is that I switched out of a ring planner and I started using the Hobonichi Weeks when it came. And because at the time I knew that I wanted to have a bound planner for my personal planner, but I couldn't decide between the Weeks and the A6 because I'd never used the Weeks and I wasn't sure if it would work. And because of the shipping costs and the customs costs for ordering Hobonichis, I decided to order both of them because I thought it would be better to order them both at the same time and figure out what to do with the extra one rather than ordering one and realizing it was wrong and having to place another order, which I could just foresee happening. So when I got the Weeks, that turned out to be perfect as my personal planner. And then I decided to use the A6 as my gratitude journal and make it a separate book again. So that was like kind of one little bit of One Book July kind of unraveling. And at the time I reasoned that there wouldn't be enough space to have my gratitude journal in the Weeks because I'd kind of mapped out how I was going to use it. I was going to have events on this side and to-dos on this side, and there wasn't going to be any room for gratitude. So I'll come back to that later. Anyway, so this has been my gratitude journal, and it's coming nearly to the end. I've only got 4 days left of it. So I'd actually kind of like to start One Book July today because it's the Monday, but I'd really like to finish this. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep it or not, but I'd just like to have the satisfaction of seeing it completely filled in. So I think that I won't officially start One Book July until Friday, which is the 1st of July, so that I can finish using this. And I'll explain what I'm going to do with this in a minute. So this is one of my other planners. It's not really a planner, but it's part of my planning system. Then this is a planner that I set up relatively recently, and this is just like a reference binder for things to do with the household. Not the same as my reference binder that I use to keep documents pertaining to the flat, i.e. Insurance things and invoices and the few paper bills that I still get. But things like recipes, like kind of list, like things to do, like how to get ready for Jewish holidays. I've started, making a to-do list, like various things like that we just want to have for reference. So because this is just a reference binder, I don't add to it very often. I only add to it if I come across a new recipe that I think we might want to try, or just very occasionally. So there's not actually a huge amount in this, but it's quite useful to have one place to put it. So I'm not going to do anything with this. I'm not going to be getting rid of this for One Book July because it is essentially a reference binder. And my policy is for reference binders that I'm not changing them. Most of my reference binders are things that I don't write in at all. I just use them for storage, like the flat binder or my furry facts, the pet binder, which I just use to keep documents like vaccination information and stuff like that. So this one is a little bit different because I do write in it, but it just doesn't seem like, as Romani has said, the point of One Book July is not to create havoc with your systems that do work. It's just to try to streamline things and make them work more efficiently. So I really don't see the point in getting rid of this. So this will be staying, but I don't expect to be writing in it. I'm because James and I, neither of us are like avid cooks. We don't write down recipes very often. They're like 3 in here, and one of them is for dog food. So I expect this to be untouched for most or all of the month. So there's that one. Then there is this. This is the Cinephile. So we've been using this for quite a while, and we really like it. This is just somewhere where we write films that we want to see, so the different inserts are for cinema, home, and TV shows. This has been really useful to have. So I think that I do want to keep on with this in future, and obviously it's also an excuse to have a really nice traveler's notebook, which, as I've said before, I don't find many uses for. This is really the only traveler's notebook that I have in use with different inserts in it. So I quite like having this. But what I am going to do for One Book July is put this aside, and I will explain what I'm going to be doing with it instead, where I'm going to keep this information instead. Next up is a quote book. So I started this because I was in a bit of a bad place, and I thought it would be nice to have something where I could write down positive quotes and then read them to cheer me up. So I've just been writing down whenever I come across like a positive motivational quote, I write it down in here. And I've had a few sessions where I've just like kind of gone on Google and searched for positive quotes and written them down. So this is another, like, this isn't really a planner, and it's not something I write in every day. So I don't really feel like this needs to be replaced, as in it's not a part of my planning system. If anything, it's more like a journal, but it's not even a journal. And this is something that's permanent. So part of the point is that I would like to have this book here until it gets filled up, if you see what I mean. It's not something where I want to have it spread over my, like one year's planner and then moved into the next year's planner. I want to have this here as a permanent resource, because when it's full, like if you can imagine in ages, this will just be a really, really nice thing to read through to, sort of add some positivity. However, I would really like to get as close to One Book July as possible. And so I'm thinking at the moment that I'm going to put this aside for July as well. And I'll explain to you more about that after I've gone through all of these. Next up, we have my 3 daily planners. And you're starting to think the lessons of One Book July did not last very long. And this is why I think it's good to have another One Book July every year. So the daily planner is a relatively recent addition to my planner lineup, and it came about because I felt like between my work planner and my personal planner, I could write down all of the sort of unique tasks that I had to do in a day, but I felt like I didn't have anywhere, because they're spread over 2 planners, I didn't have anywhere where I could just write a long list of everything that I have to do in the day, regardless of whether it was work or personal, and just see how the day looked visually. And also I didn't have room really in the weeks to write down all the different mundane daily personal tasks that were not unique, as in habit things, like, I don't know, make bed, get up, make breakfast, make cup of tea, which might sound ridiculous to want to write down in a planner. And it's not the sort of thing that I have to write down every day. But on some days, particularly when so James works in the market on some days. He works in Camden Market in London. And on days when I'm home by myself with our dogs and he's at work, I'm working from home. So it can be a bit overwhelming, thinking like, okay, these are all the things that I have to do before I can start work. Like, take the boys out and, give them their breakfast and and like laundry and all of that type of stuff. And then also like do all of the work stuff as well. So it's just been very helpful to have something where I can just write down a complete list of everything that I have to do in the day. And, it doesn't matter what it is, I just want to see it in roughly the order that I want it to happen in. So that's where the daily planners come in. And in contrast to my usual custom, which is that I can't stand undated planners, everything has to be dated. For the daily planner, it doesn't have to be dated, because A, I'm not using it every day, and so I wouldn't want to waste days. And B, it's just a to-do list. So I don't care. I use 1 page per day. So I don't need to know what day it is, because I just open it to the next blank page, and that's what I'm going to be writing on. And I know that that's the day that I'm working with, because it's the last page that's been written on, if you see what I mean. And then the next day I go to another page. So there's really no point for it to be dated. And in fact, having it be dated would be stressful, because if I didn't use it for a few days, I'd be like, all these blank pages, you know what I'm talking about. So for that reason, since they're not dated, I decided that the daily planner was a perfect excuse to revel in my planner addiction and try more than one. Because obviously, if you're using dated planners, you have the problem that if you have this proliferation of planners and you realize that you can't keep up with them all, some of them you're going to leave blank, and then you're going to feel bad. And if you abandon them, they're sitting there glaring at you on the shelf, like, looking at you accusingly. And likewise, if you see a new awesome planner that you really want to try, you're like, well, I don't have a use for that, so I can't try it until next year, but I will die waiting for next year. And so you end up buying it anyway, and then you have to figure out another use for it, etc. And so the merry roller coaster goes on. But with this, I thought, okay, so I really wanted to try this Batman planner. It's not a planner, it's a Moleskine lined journal, so notebook. So I had that. And in fact, before I got this was the first one that I got. This is a Stalogy notebook. So this one has it's like kind of got the possibility for you to give it dates. You can circle the day and the year and the day and the month and the week. But you don't have to. So at first I was doing that, and then I stopped because I realized it didn't matter and it was just, kind of wasting time. So I had that one, and then I had the Batman one, and then I thought, I really, for ages, first of all, I had this My Little Pony Lyra Dory, which I'd wanted to try, and I didn't have anything to use it for. And I'd also had this Moleskine dot grid notebook for ages. I probably had this for about a year and a half, and I haven't been able to use it. And I was waiting for some, momentous reason to break it open. And then I thought, like, what momentous reason am I going to have? What amazing project that's worthy of a dot grade notebook am I going to have? Probably I'll be waiting for years if I do that. So I thought this is the perfect opportunity. I can use all three of these and just rotate them because they're undated. It really doesn't matter. So I'm using all three of these, and I just use whichever one I feel like on any given day. So I'm like, today I feel like Batman. Today I feel like My Little Pony and dot grids. So that's why there are three of these. They're all the same thing, basically. And this is a sort of question mark. I'm not sure whether I'm going to be keeping this in One Book July. My initial thought is not to do it and see if I can manage without it, but I have really enjoyed having the option of having the daily planner. I was thinking I could just get around it by using to-do lists, just on, just tear off to-do list sheets. But I'm really not sure if that makes any sense, because that would be kind of like technically keeping within the rules, because I wouldn't be using an actual book. But then what's the difference between a to-do list and a notebook? So if you enjoy the notebook and it gives you a sense of satisfaction, and I really like it, aesthetically, I like opening it, I like writing the list in it, I like closing it, I like looking through all of the completed pages. And a to-do list would kind of be like robbing me of that, but it would still be the same thing. I'd still be using more than one place to write stuff down. So I'm not sure. At the moment, I'm going to try starting the month without these, but then I'll reserve the right to bring them back in if I feel like it's not working. And I think that's the point of this whole thing, is to see what works and what doesn't work. Okay, then, yes, there's still more to come. So let me move some of these a bit further out of the way. The next one is my Disc Agenda Manta. This is my finance planner. And what I do with this is I write down, I probably shouldn't show it because it's all like money stuff, but on the weekly pages I write down my outgoings, and they're divided into three categories: food, essentials, and fun stuff. And then at the end of the week, I tally them up and see how much I spent in each category, and then a total of how much I spent for the week. And I sort of try to keep on track with what I'm supposed to spend, like, what I've given allocated for myself to spend. And then on the monthly pages, I write in my bank balance, which I try to check every day. So since I introduced this a couple of months ago, it's been really, really helpful, because I was feeling like finances were kind of just like, I didn't know what was going on. And I always felt like I was ending the month running out of money and having to transfer money from my savings account, and it was really stressful, and I hadn't made a budget in years. And so I decided to do this with a sort of positive attitude, making this into a financial abundance planner, and it has been really helpful. So I'm sort of reluctant to give this up, but at the same time, I would really like to give One Book July, well, it won't be One Book July, I'll reveal in a minute what it's going to be, but I'd like to keep the finance tracking, basically. I think that's an important system to keep in place. So I'll explain to you what I'm going to be doing with that. Then, almost done, only two left. We've got the Disc Agenda Diva, or the Disc Agenda Turquoise, which I use for meal planning. And meal planning has also been something that has been quite successful, in that it has sort of, just like the finance planner, it has stopped us from just general confusion and panic about food, because if we plan it out the night before, then the next day all you have to do is follow the instructions. So I've actually fallen off the wagon with the food planning this week, which is bad, but this generally has been a very helpful thing, and it's something that I'd like to keep. So I'm going to definitely incorporate this into One Book July, but probably not with this actual book, and I will explain this further as well. So then the last one, this is the Disc Agenda Diva, and this is our home planner. And this is like kind of, well, this and the Disc Agenda Turquoise, the food planner, the meal planner, are the only planners where I decorate with stickers. And I really like that because I do like enjoy decorating with stickers. So it's quite fun. This is just where I write down things that basically are movements. Like if we're at home, if one of us is out, and then if there's a shared appointment sometimes that, you know, like we're both planning on doing that's relevant to both of us. But you can see this is this week, so it's quite bare. I've just written down like this is today, we're both at home. Tomorrow James is in the market, Wednesday James is in the market, Thursday James is in the market. I'm at home on all of those days. There's like kind of there's really nothing else to write in it, so it's just like a quick place where we can both check where we're going to be. And we also use it to check the dates on the Jewish calendar because that's a Jewish calendar. So it's quite useful for that as well. Okay, so this is the whole, the horrifying extent of all of the different planners that I have. So what am I going to do for One Book July? See, you can't even get all of these in frame. There's so many of them. It's madness. Okay, so my plan for One Book July is to reduce from all of these down to just these two. So in effect, it will not be One Book July, it will be Two Book July. And the reason for that is that, as I said before, these are my two main planners, and I've often thought that if I really needed to, I could get away just with using these two, and I could get rid of all the rest of them. But I'd never really put it to the test. So when I started thinking about this, oh, the planners are rebelling. When I started thinking about this a few weeks ago, because I was actually I think what prompted it is that when we went away, we went to Wales, and I didn't want to schlep all of these planners with me. And so I just brought this, and the gratitude book. And then I decided to see if I could still, I was like, oh, I don't have a meal planner. Oh, I don't have a finance planner. Then I started to see if I could incorporate them into just what I had with me. And I actually discovered that I could. When I got home, I was happy to be reunited with all of my other planners because we were gone for like a week. But I thought, this is interesting. I wonder if I could actually downsize. And the reason for it was because, for one thing, I thought if we went away again, I'd like to know that I have my system in place. And then I was thinking about One Book July, and that kind of like sort of made the resolve even stronger. And then I started thinking, I wonder if I could get rid of this one as well. And it sort of became like a challenge to see how pared down I could get the system, which is exactly what One Book July is supposed to be for. So I've actually been thinking about this for quite a while beforehand, and now I feel like I'm pretty much set up, and I'm really excited about it. So this is what I'm thinking of doing. My work planner is going to stay my work planner. At one point, I considered the idea of just moving into this for the month and doing everything in here and having it be like a real, actual, proper One Book July. But then I quickly realized that that wouldn't work, because not so much because of the personal planning, because like as you can see here, this is last week. This is all of my personal like to-dos. So it's not like there are 10 million of them. I could, you know, if I needed to, I could fit them on here, either by putting them down here in this is like the time section, and I like to reserve this for kind of like planning out my work day, or by putting them on the side here. Or if I needed to, I could actually put them in the daily pages, because I don't use these by day, so I end up with some blank pages, and I could actually say like today, this is the 27th. I could have used this today as a daily planner if I'd wanted to, because I've got the room. So that would be possible. But what I wouldn't be able to fit into here without really messing up the system is all of the extra stuff, like the meal planning, the finance planning, things like lists of YouTube videos to make, the quotes, the cinephile, like all of the other stuff that gratitude, all the stuff that I have spread out over my other planners. I just wouldn't be able to do that in here. Or, I mean, I could do it, but if I did it, it would sort of mess up my work system. And again, as Romany has stressed, like the point is not to disrupt your systems that function. And I feel like this functions really well, and I'm very happy with it. And I don't want to dismantle it for a month, because I'm not planning to just have one planner forever. And I have had one planner in the past, so I know that it's possible, but I wasn't tracking or planning as many things as I am now. And so I really feel like I don't want to give up on those things that, like, when I used this as my only planner, I didn't do meal planning, I didn't do finance tracking, I didn't have gratitude in it, if you see what I mean. So I decided against that. But what I thought that I could do, and what I thought was kind of exciting, was to really see if I could stretch the limits of the weeks, of what I could do with the weeks. Because I've been using, so let's see, I've been using the weeks, like for ages, as I said, to be that. So this was appointments and like timed things, and then this was to-dos, and it's sort of varied over the last few months. I've been kind of experimenting in different ways, but it's been more or less the same kind of thing. And then what I realized at some point was that I actually wasn't really like making as much use out of this as possible, because you can see a lot of days like there aren't actually that many timed appointments. It's not like I'm constantly, I don't constantly have personal appointments. So I started to think, how else could I use this? And when we were in Wales and I didn't have the meal planner and the finance tracker, I started doing meal planning here. So I thought I could actually divide this into 3, because it's got these little dots, so it's sort of designed for you to be able to divide it. I could put appointments here, and I could put meal planning here. And that did kind of work, but it was a bit cramped. Then I realized that I could use my monthly layout for meal planning. And so I started doing that, and I've been doing that for all of this month, and that has worked out really well. That's been fine. Then I thought, okay, so with the space that I've saved here, I could use this for gratitude, which would be replacing this, and I could use this for finances, which would be replacing this. So I could record all of the expenditures here, and then my bank balance in the bottom of the day, of the square. I haven't figured out a place where I could add up the expenses for the week yet, but I think that I could do it down here if I sort of find a way to rejig this. Or up here, that's not impossible. So that was basically, sort of by using this space more efficiently, I was like, wow, I can actually have gratitude and finances, and then I can have meal planning. And then the only thing left was in my gratitude book, I also have a section for like vision. So things that I want to happen, that I want to concentrate on a positive outcome. So I decided I could put that down the side of this monthly section, because instead of writing out the same things every day, or a lot of the same things, I could just write them down once and then leave them there. So that has kind of taken care of the finance binder, the gratitude book, and the meal planner. The only things left are the quote book and the cinephile. So I made a page in here because it's got all these note pages, and I've been sort of using them, sparingly over the year, just to make sure that I didn't run out. So I've actually got, I have a surplus of pages. So I just made one page for cinema, cinema, films to see at home, and TV, and this will last for a long time. So I think this would probably last for like the rest of the year. It's only one page, so it's actually really efficient. And that's taking care of this. And then the quotes book, I'm thinking at the moment that I'm just going to allocate another page for quotes. In fact, I think I may already have made one somewhere in here, because all it is just a page that will say quotes, and then I'll just write in my quotes. And because there's actually quite a lot of room on a week's page, I can get in a lot of quotes in here, definitely enough to last me in the month. And at the end of the month, I'll copy them over and put them in here, so I won't have lost anything. But for a month, I'll kind of have a little holiday from having to go to the shelf and get this out when I want to write a quote. I'll just put it in here. That's what I'm thinking. And that's possibly something I could continue with, like just writing the quotes in here, just so that psychologically I know that I only have one thing to reach for. I know that everything is in here, and I can just write them that and then transfer them over occasionally. And I'm thinking of doing that with the finances as well. I've actually already started. So I've kind of started a like pre-One Book July experiment with the finance planner, is writing everything in here. And you can see it's covered up, but I've been writing all the finance stuff in here. And so I'm going to keep doing it on here. And then I'm thinking once a week, because I don't want it to build up too much, and I really like having this permanent record, and it's quite convenient being able to see, you know, like what I've got at the end of the week. So I'm thinking that maybe rather than waiting until the end of the month, I'll just do it once a week so that I don't have this big buildup of financial information to enter in here at the end, because once a week is very easy to do it, but like waiting till the end of the month, it might turn into a chore. So that's what I'm thinking. And I think if I do it like that, I mean, again, like as Romany and Miss Vicky B and Kerry Harling say, it's not like they're One Book July police that are going to come and get you if you don't do it right. You decide what works for you. And so I think that for me that would make sense, because I would like to have this as a record. But I'll see. If I'm really enjoying it and I don't feel like I need it, then I might wait. I mean, part of the thing is it's nice having a dedicated planner where, like, if I want to see how much we've spent on like food shopping, I can just go back and check over this, and it's all in one place. There's no other information to distract me. It's very easy to see it. So I think that there is a benefit to having that. But by the same token, it's another planner that I have to write in. So if I can like kind of take the pressure off for a while, just see what it's like only writing in here, then I can decide how often I want to copy it into there. Then the final question remains, so two more things, the meal planner and the home planner. Okay, so both of these are already satellite planners, meaning that I don't put any information in here that isn't already in here, right? So I started doing the meal planning in here, and I've just been copying it into here so that James and I can both see it, and also so that I have this like nice, pretty decorated planner for it. But that's really all it is. This is actually redundant at the moment because I'm doing the meal planning in here. So, which is maybe why I didn't keep up with it this week. So what I'm thinking of doing at the moment is just stopping for a while. And if we discover that it's inconvenient and James would like to have easier access to it, because I mean, he can check the weeks, but it's easier to do like look in this because we keep this out on, you know, like on our desk. So it's easy for us both to see it. So if it turns out that it feels inconvenient not having this, then I might go back to it. But at the moment, I'm starting out the month not using it because I think, you know, I want to give it as good a shot as I can. And the same thing goes for the home planner. So the main reason that I started using this again was not because we really needed it, but because I just really missed having a decorative planner. And I'm not the sort of person who, like, you know, decorates really in a really organized way with themes or, you know, coordinated stickers and washi or anything. It's just like all this big colorful mess, but I really like that, and it's fun, and I like looking at it over the week. So I would be kind of sad to give that up, especially because this is a spiral planner, and so, you know, you can't just take out the pages if you haven't used them. It will be there looking resentful. But again, I feel like the point of this is to kind of like streamline things, and so I'm thinking that I will definitely start off the month not using it. But again, it's not like I need this. It's just a fun extra, and it also is kind of just an easy access way of seeing, you know, like what we're both doing during the week. But neither of us really needs this because I've got my planner and James has got his planner. So like if he wants to know where I am, like I can tell him. So I'm thinking that I'm going to start off not having it. But then if it feels like either like if I miss the decorating, I will bring it back in. Or, you know, like if I kind of feel sad not having this like space to decorate in, then I don't see what's wrong with that. Or because I'm doing this for fun. It's like, so if I miss it, then, you know, why, like, you know, punish yourself for a month. But equally, I don't really need it. So it seems like a reasonable place to start off by not using it. So that is going to be my One Book July setup. So it's, I guess officially this is hashtag 2 Book July, and then there are also going to be some supplementing. So I'm going to be putting things into here occasionally. I might wait the whole month. I'll see how it goes in the first week. These are like kind of the 2 reference books, I guess, that I would like to have available after the month. So I'm not going to be giving up on them permanently. And the rest of it I'll see. Like the cinephile, I do also like having this again for reference, but when I saw how easy it was to put it all into the weeks and how compact it was, I was surprised. So I was thinking maybe I don't really need it. It's a kind of toss-up between wanting to have a nice streamlined system that's simple and doesn't make your brain hurt when you're trying to decide like which planner am I using, what should I get out, where is it, and so like this is always with me. It's either in my bag, which is always next to me, or it's just like right next to me on the sofa, or like when I go out I always take it. So I think it's quite nice for the brain not to have to think like oh, I have to write down that quote, I have to remember to put that in the quote book next time I am in the living room by the shelf where the quote book lives. I can just put it in here. So I think that will be quite a nice holiday for the brain, knowing that if I have to write anything down, it's going either in here or in here. I think that will be good. But on the other hand, part of the reason why, like I have so many planners is because I like using them, and I like getting this is beautiful and I love getting it out and writing in it. And this is beautiful and I love writing in it, and it's exciting to get to open it and look, and that's part of the fun, and that's part of what makes something really boring to me, like that would normally be boring, like finance planning, exciting, because I love the planner. So I don't feel like I should just sort of abolish my whole planner system and just go down to these two, because obviously I could do that if I wanted to. So I'm trying to kind of strike a happy balance between them, but I think it's definitely important to start off at the bare minimum and then see what I'd like to incorporate back in, if anything. So I'm more or less I'm really starting already, because I've got this system in place and I'm going to be using this for gratitude, this for finances, and then I'll be writing the cinephile stuff in here and the quotes and everything. The only thing that I'm not going to be incorporating until Friday is this, and that's simply because I want to finish this book. So it's just these extra 4 days. So I'm kind of unofficially starting One Book July now, but because I'll still be using this until Thursday, I'm saying that I'm officially starting it on Friday. So I will do an update probably sometime next week after I've been using it, after I've been doing it for at least a week, to let you know how it's going. And if you are doing One Book July in any form, I will be curious to hear about that as well. The one thing that I wanted to mention is that this year, Romani has introduced a new element, which is that instead of the traditional One Book July, you can do One Book July version 2.0, which is instead of one book, one pen, 1 month, it's one book, one project, 1 month. So that's the idea is that either if you're already using one book and thus One Book July would not be anything out of the ordinary for you, or if you've got your system really well in place and you don't feel like you need to mess with it or streamline in it all, but you still want to do a challenge, then you can pick a particular project that you've been meaning to do and focus on that. So I just wanted to mention that I'm not going to be doing that, because I feel like this is what I've been working on. I've kind of been working towards the idea of streamlining my planning system in this way. But I'll be really, really curious to see what other people are planning to do, if they're going to do One Book July in any form. And obviously, this is not technically One Book July, but as has been said, it's relative and you can interpret the rules. So for me, One Book July is 2 Book July. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing what goes on over the month. And with everybody who is participating in this in some form or the other. As always, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And I will be back again soon.